I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the News du Jour, a calmer space to consume the news. So today we have two mini stories for you guys here at the top, and then we're going to be jumping into Biden strong-arming the gun control situation, a winter storm update, as well as all the details on Tropical Storm Freddy, because there's a lot to go over there. Let's get into it. So first and foremost, great news. Senator Mitch McConnell was released from the hospital following a concussion from a fall, like we've talked about. As it turns out, he also suffered a minor rib fracture, quote unquote. Glad he's recovering and on the mend. For our second mini story, Meta is actually having to undergo another round of layoffs, you guys. 10,000 employees will be forced to leave the company for the second time since November. This amounts to about 13% of their overall workforce. And now, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the rest of the news. So first of all, we said, Biden is kind of strong-arming the gun control situation, and he's really taking matters into his own hands. He went to Monterey, California, where one of the latest mass shootings has occurred, and he announced his new executive order. Americans have been demanding action on these mass shootings for so long, and it was time to actually do something. So he took action on his own via executive order. Biden is actually doing the most that he can legally on his own. Any further, and Congress would have had to be involved. So here is what his EO will accomplish for the American people. It will strengthen red flag laws. So basically situations where people know someone is dangerous and should not be armed, they will be flagged in the system. He upped the ante when it comes to background checks on gun buyers. This new legislation also prevents former domestic abusers and felons from buying guns. It requires safe storage of firearms. It requires FTC to research how guns have been marketed, especially to minors. And then it also changes federal government responses to mass shootings, making it more similar to that of a natural disaster. A poll run by Reuters back in 2022 found that 84% of Americans actually support universal background checks and 70% support comprehensive red flag laws. Those are incredible numbers. 40,000 people in America die of gunshot wounds yearly. That's like living in a freaking war zone, you guys. Our kids deserve better. We all deserve better. We all deserve safety. And given that we have the most firearms of any nation in the world by a factor of 2 at least, if more guns would have made us safer, we'd be safe by now. And next up for today, we're giving you guys a little update on the winter storm situation. So not only is California getting crazy weather right now, but the Northeast is also getting hammered by a winter storm. And it's gnarly, you guys. It's that wet, nasty kind of snow. Upstate New York saw snowfall of up to 2 inches an hour. There have been school closings, flights canceled, and thousands of power outages. The usual. Woof. The storm's path was over New England, New York, northern Pennsylvania, and northern New Jersey. And next up for today, and a continuation of these weather updates, I do have to issue a content warning with this story. It involves climate-related deaths. So we have to discuss Tropical Storm Freddy, you guys. Amnesty International sent out a press release yesterday about the absolute destruction left in the wake of Storm Freddy. As we know, the climate crisis will affect us all. But for those already facing abject poverty, the results are going to be all the more catastrophic. Over 200 people have already died from this disastrous tropical storm called Freddy, including dozens of children who just never stood a chance against climate change. This storm literally swept away people's homes. It injured hundreds, and the videos coming out of this region are absolutely terrifying, you guys. The storm system itself was basically a giant cyclone of sorts, and it brought with it torrential rainfall that led to flooding, mudslides, and sinkholes. It appears the storm also set world records as the most rapid intensification of a tropical storm. Basically, things escalated very quickly, faster than any other storm on record, according to Reuters. This is a hallmark of climate change, you guys, that has been promised and forecasted for decades to provide not just more frequent storms, but more erratic and unexpected ones. The World Meteorological organization is setting up an expert committee to basically examine the specifics of this storm and decide whether or not it's an official new record. So, they're going to have to look at all the details to decide if this is indeed a new world record, but experts are claiming that it is. This community is particularly vulnerable too. In Mozambique, according to the World Bank, 46% of people live below the poverty line. And in Malawi, the numbers are even worse, with 50% or more of their people living below the poverty line. And these numbers are honestly conservative. Other organizations consider 90% of the Malawi people to be living in poverty. So when you only have a dirt floor, you have nowhere to go in a storm. That leaves people so much more vulnerable than, well, probably any of us listening to this podcast. People are demanding compensation in this area from the international community for victims and their families due to the fact that these two countries are among the smallest contributors to climate change, and yet they have been some of the largest victims. We put places to donate in our show notes for today, and you can contribute to relief efforts for Malawi and Mozambique, or even give to fighting climate change overall. And if you're not in a position to donate right now, we shared this info in a social media post on our News du Jour Instagram, Sugar Free Media Instagram, and TikTok accounts. So please consider resharing those in order to help spread the word about this devastating storm. The people in this community need our help. And that is the News du Jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote: "Grief is one illness that defies all remedies. It must ever run its course." If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. A rate and review or shout out on social media would mean the world to us and help us be able to keep creating the News du Jour. But the best way to support all of our work is to become a patron at www.patreon.com/sugarfreemedia. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram and just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from Oklahoma.